There is a word in the Iliad for the way a man lies stretched out in the dust. Homer uses it sparingly. Every time but one, it describes a corpse, a warrior who has fallen, a body sprawled where it dropped, taking up the ground. Once, exactly once in the whole poem, he uses that word of a man who is still breathing. That man is Achilles. Antilochus has just reached him with the news. Patroclus is dead. Hector killed him, stripped Achilles' own armor from the body, and the two armies are still fighting over what is left. Achilles goes down into the dirt of the Greek camp, face down, stretched out, weeping. And out of the sea, hearing him, his mother comes up with her sister goddesses around her. Thetis stands behind her son where he lies. She takes his head in her two hands, and she begins to sing a lament over him. That gesture is not comfort, it is a formula. On a carved Greek relief, a woman standing behind a man laid out flat, her hands resting on his head, means one thing, and every Greek looking at the stone knows what it means. He is dead. She is mourning him. It is the posture of a funeral, not of shared grief for somebody else. Her son is alive, she is holding his funeral anyway. And she calls herself by a word that appears nowhere else in the poem, dousaristot, unhappy in the best of childbearing because the finest child ever born to her is going to die young. That is the register Homer sets for everything that follows. From the moment the news reaches Achilles to the moment he kills Hector, the poem pulls him apart in two directions at once. In the imagery, he is already a corpse. On the battlefield, he is very nearly a god. Not a man torn between two things, but a man split into two things that never meet. He takes over the work of death itself. He kills where no one else can kill, and nothing in the world stops him until a river tries. Before this, Achilles had one grievance and one demand. Agamemnon had taken his prize and with it his teammate, his public worth, the honor that made him who he was, and he had withdrawn to his ships to wait for the Greeks to fill his absence. All of that is now gone. He does not care about the gifts, he does not care about Agamemnon. One purpose replaces every other purpose he has ever had. Kill Hector. Every move he makes from here to the end of the poem runs through that. Thetis grieves with him, and what she tells him is not consolation. It is a prize. If he goes back into the fighting and kills Hector for Patroclus, his own death follows close behind Hector's. That is fixed. That is the bargain. Achilles says he understands it and accepts it. Long ago she had laid two destinies in front of him. A long life at home, quiet and forgotten, or a short life at Troy and the glory that never dies. He has spent the whole poem holding both. In the dirt of the camp he finally chooses. He chooses the death because the death is what avenging Patroclus costs. Then she leaves for Olympus because her son cannot fight. He has no armor. Hector is wearing it. The finest fighter alive is standing in his own camp with nothing to put on. So Thetis goes to Hephaestus, the smith of the gods, and asks him for a new set. He works through the night, and the centerpiece of what he makes is a shield. On that shield, Hephaestus puts the entire cosmos, the constellations, the sun and the moon, and running around the outer rim, the river Oceanus, which in Homer's world is not a sea but an ever-flowing river, encircling the edge of the Earth's flat disk. Inside that ring, he sets two cities. One is at war, the other is at peace, and it is the peaceful one that gets the detail. A judge sitting in the marketplace settling a quarrel, plowed fields and harvest, sheepfolds, herds of cattle, a dancing floor with young men and women turning on it. Hephaestus is not decorating a weapon. He is putting the whole known world onto the arm of a man who is walking away from it. While the armor is being forged, Achilles goes back to the war without it. His return happens in two stages, and the first one is informal. Hera wants Patroclus' body out of Trojan hands, and she sends the messenger goddess Iris down to the camp with an instruction. It is a strange instruction to give a warrior, because there is nothing in it about fighting. Show yourself, Iris tells him. Go and stand where the Trojans can see you. That will be enough. Out on the plain, the fighting has not stopped. The two armies are still tearing at Patroclus' body, the Trojans hauling at it to drag it home and strip it, the Greeks holding on, with Menelaus fighting over that corpse more fiercely than he has fought anywhere in the poem. Achilles makes the reasonable objection. He has nothing to wear. He cannot walk out onto a battlefield unarmed. Iris does not argue. Go to the ditch, she says. The trench the Greeks dug in front of their wall. The wall the Trojans have already broken through. Stand there. So he walks out to the edge of the ditch with no shield, no spear, no helmet. Athena wraps a cloud about his head and lights it. Fire streams up off him into the evening. He stands at the lip of the trench above the whole plain, and he shouts, and Athena shouts with him, and the sound that comes out is not a human sound. The Trojan line breaks where it stands. Horses bolt and swing the chariots around. Men trample each other, getting away. And in the gap that opens, the Greeks pick up Patroclus and carry him out. Behind him, the sun goes down. Achilles is left standing black against the light, fire still burning around his head. And the Trojans out on the plain are looking up at a man they had counted out of the war. It is the end of the longest day in the Iliad. It is also the end of the day of glory that Zeus had promised Hector, the one day the Trojans would drive the Greeks back onto their ships. That day ends with an unarmed man standing at a ditch, shouting. Nothing else in the poem looks quite like that, and the image has never stopped working. Later writers keep reaching for it. The most haunting time anyone reached for it was not in a study. It was in a war. Patrick Shaw Stewart, a British poet, was stationed at Gallipoli in 1915. Gallipoli lies on the Chersonese Peninsula, and directly across the water from it is the site of Troy. The fighting there was catastrophic for the British. Their expeditionary force was very nearly annihilated by the Turks. In the middle of it, Shaw Stewart was given 3 days' leave on Imbros, a nearby island the war had not touched. He wrote a poem there. He never gave it a title. It begins in the morning. I saw a man this morning who did not wish to die. I ask and cannot answer, if otherwise wish I. Fair broke the day this morning against the Dardanelles. The breeze blew soft. The morn's cheeks were cold as cold seashells. But other shells are waiting across the Aegean Sea, shrapnel and high explosive, shells and hells for me. Then he turns and speaks to Achilles directly. Achilles came to Troyland and I to Chersonese. He turned from wrath to battle, and I from 3 days' peace. Was it so hard, Achilles, so very hard to die? Thou knewest, and I know not. So much the happier I. And then the last 4 lines, which are the reason anyone still knows his name. I will go back this morning from Imbros over the sea. Stand in the trench, Achilles, flame-capped, and shout for me. Trench, not ditch. Shaw Stewart puts the Greek earthwork and the Western Front inside the same word, and then asks Achilles to come and stand in it, flame-capped, and shout for him, exactly as he shouted at the ditch and broke a line without a weapon in his hand. It is a request for courage from a man who is about to need it. Shaw Stewart went back over the sea. He did not survive the war. The formal return comes when Thetis brings the armor down from Olympus. Before Achilles puts it on, he and Agamemnon finally settle their quarrel, and the scene is a deliberate anticlimax, because the quarrel no longer matters to anybody standing in it. Agamemnon offers the gifts again, the whole treasure from the embassy. Achilles tells him to bring them or keep them. He does not care. His heart is set on blood and the slaughter. He announces that he will not eat or drink until he has taken his vengeance. Agamemnon, who is a practical man, points out that an army cannot fight on an empty stomach. That refusal is a small thing, and it is the tell. Food, drink, sleep, washing, the ordinary maintenance of being alive, Achilles has stopped doing all of it. He has lost interest in his honor, which is the thing he built his entire quarrel on, and now he has lost interest in being a person. This is where the portrait stops being a portrait of a man. Homer pushes him below the human and above it in the same breath. A dead man walking and very nearly a god. Both are running at once, and neither one cancels the other. Take each half in turn. Take the dead man first. In a symbolic sense, Patroclus' death is very nearly Achilles' own, and some part of Achilles dies with him. Homer says so in the language rather than in the plot. The corpse word in the dust. The mother standing over her living son with her hands on his head, singing the wrong song over the wrong body. Some scholars think Book 18 is drawing directly on one of the lost epics that told the story of Achilles' own funeral, lifting its language and laying it over a man who has not died yet. The poem is rehearsing his funeral in front of him. And there is a second woman in these books mourning the wrong man. Once Patroclus' body is back in the camp, Briseis speaks. It is the only time she speaks in the entire Iliad. She throws herself across the body, tearing at her own face and throat. And she says that Patroclus was always kind to her. Briseis is Achilles' woman. She is the prize the whole quarrel was fought over. If she is going to mourn anyone in this poem, you expect it to be him. Something that belongs at Achilles' funeral has slid sideways onto Patroclus again. Now the other direction. Once Achilles is back in the fighting, Homer describes him with fire over and over until the comparison stops being a comparison. His armor blazes like fire. He comes down on the Trojans like a fire running along a hillside in a wind. He himself blazes. His eyes glitter like fire. Individually, most of these phrases have been used of other men somewhere in the poem, stacked this thickly on one man across a few books. They stop reading as similes and start reading as description, and the armor doing the blazing was made by Hephaestus. Achilles has been armed by fire itself. The clearest sign of what he has become is a piece of bookkeeping. From the moment he returns to the field until the moment he kills Hector, no other mortal in the Iliad kills anyone. Not one. There are thousands of men on that plain, and every single death among them belongs to Achilles. He has not simply rejoined the war, he has taken over the operation of death and made himself its instrument. And he works without pity, killing where the rules of his own world tell him to stop, killing men he ought to spare. Two things show how far outside the rules he has gone. The first is a promise he makes standing over Patroclus' body. He will cut the throats of 12 Trojan youths on the funeral pyre. Human sacrifice is not something the society in these poems does. It is the thing you point at to mark where acceptable behavior stops, the sort of horror that belongs to other people and older stories. Achilles does not name it as a horror. He names it as a debt he intends to pay, and later, at the pyre, he pays it. The second is a boy called Lycaon. He is one of Priam's sons, young, barely more than an adolescent, and Achilles has met him before. He caught him once already at night in his father's orchard and did not kill him. Lycaon was sold, a ransom was paid for him, and he found his way home to Troy. That is how the system is supposed to work. You take a man alive, his people pay, and you gain booty and honor is the entire reason a warrior in the Iliad picks up a spear in the first place. They meet again on the bank of the river, and Lycaon has no weapon and no chance, so he does the one thing left to him. He drops and supplicates. Supplication in Homer is not improvised. It has a fixed physical form, the same in the Iliad and in the Odyssey. One arm goes around the knees of the man you are begging. The other hand reaches up and takes hold of his chin or his beard. Lycaon cannot get that far. He catches hold of Achilles' spear instead. The meaning of the gesture is unchanged. That posture is doing three things at once. Both of the suppliant's hands are accounted for, so he obviously carries no weapon and cannot strike by surprise. The grip pins the other man's attention, so he cannot walk away, and with a hand in his beard he cannot even lift his head without pain, and it leaves the suppliant's throat completely open, tilted up under his enemy's blade. The whole shape of the body says one sentence: I'm entirely at your mercy. Lycaon begs. He reminds Achilles that ransom will be paid for him again. And Achilles answers him almost gently, which is the worst part of it. While Patroclus lived, he says he was willing to take ransom. Now he takes none from anyone. You will die too, friend. Patroclus is dead, and Patroclus was a far better man than you. Look at me. Look at how big I am, how beautiful, the son of a great father and a goddess mother. And the death and the hard destiny are standing over me as well. There will come a dawn, or an afternoon, or a noon, when a man kills me in the fighting with a spear cast or an arrow. Then he puts his sword into the boy's throat. He picks the body up by the foot and throws it into the river. It is not the first. He has been killing all afternoon and pitching the dead into the water, and the channel is silting up with them. The river of Troy carries two names, Scamander and Xanthus. In this world, a river is not scenery. Rivers, streams, lakes, and springs are gods, with tempers and opinions, and the god of this one is being choked with corpses by a man who will not stop. The Scamander comes up out of its own bed after him. This is the only thing in the whole rampage that comes close to stopping Achilles, the only force on that field that nearly puts him under. And there is a rightness to it. The man who has turned into fire is very nearly killed by water. He is saved because Hera sends Hephaestus, the fire god, a second time, and Hephaestus burns the flood back into its channel until it lets Achilles go. No man can stand in front of him. He goes through the ranks the way a reaper goes through standing grain. It takes a god to make him hesitate for a moment. And through all of it, he is carrying the world on his left arm. Picture the advance. Every man he kills under the constellations and the encircling ocean, under the judge and the dancing floor and the herds. The heart of that design is not the war. It is the city at peace, the ordinary business of people living alongside each other. That is the human world, and it is exactly the human world Achilles is refusing. He carries a picture of everything he will not be part of strapped to the arm he fights with. One way to read this whole stretch is that the two halves of Achilles have been pulled apart and set against each other. The divine half from his mother, the mortal half from his father. Not blended into one man, but split, each pushed as far as it will go. On one side, an already dead mortal. The Greek word for mortals is netoi, and it carries the sense of dead ones as much as dying ones. On the other side, something very close to a god. What he is not anywhere in these books is an ordinary person who can feel grief, live inside it, and let it go. He will not even let death finish. He refuses to bury Patroclus. He refuses to hold the funeral. Told that his friend is dead, he simply declines to perform the rites that will make it final. Earlier in the poem, Zeus had rescued the body of his own son Sarpedon, sending sleep and death to carry it away to Lycia for burial. Here the gods intervene again. Thetis strips ambrosia and nectar, the food and drink of the immortals, into Patroclus' nostrils, so that the flesh will not rot. So Patroclus hangs there, not alive, not buried, not yet counted among the dead. And life is suspended in exactly the same way. Achilles will not sleep, he will not eat or wash or do any of the small ordinary things a living person does. Thetis comes to him and argues for all of it. Sleep, she says. Lie with a woman again. Eat something. Drink something. Be a person again. He refuses her. Death is on hold and the life is on hold, and Achilles is standing in the gap between them with nothing left to do but kill. At the close of the book, his own horse answers him back. Achilles has been blaming the horses for failing to bring Patroclus safely out of the fighting and warning them to do better with him. Hera gives Xanthus a human voice, and the horse says this: "We will keep you safe today. But the day of your death is near, and it is not our doing. A great god and a powerful destiny killed Patroclus, not us. It was simply his fate. and you too are going to be brought down by a god and by a mortal man. Then look at what is standing in that field, a horse who cannot die given human speech, telling a man who already knows far too much about death exactly how his own will arrive. Death is his work now, and he has put both death and life on hold. He blazes like fire, and he lies stretched in the dust like a corpse. He carries the whole human world on his shield and refuses every part of it. Less than human and more than human at once, and a man in neither condition can be reached. Not by a boy on his knees with one hand on the spear begging, not by a river god rising out of the ground. There is only one thing left in the world that can bring Achilles back to being a human being, and it is waiting for him alone outside the walls of Troy.